What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of StoryHive On Location Vancouver with Beats, Eats, and more. I am your host, Kazi. We're broadcasting live right now out of MOARRR Studios on the unceded ancestral lands of the Musqueam, the Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish First Nations, of whom we give utmost love, respect, and honor for being the original stewards and protectors of these lands and these waters. I also want to give a big shout outs to TELUS STORYHIVE for powering today's episode. And I also want to say a big thank you to our guest for this evening. We want to welcome Brandon Wint, a poet, filmmaker, educator, and a true practitioner of the art of living. For over a decade, Brandon has been sharing his work across the world, with writing featured in the Ex Puritan event magazine, Arc Poetry magazine, and more, and films screened at DOXA, Real World, and the Vancouver International Film Festival Center. His work doesn't just ask us to listen, it invites us to feel, reflect, and come a little closer to ourselves and each other, using poetry as a bridge between the seen and unseen, the human and the divine. Y'all give it up for Brandon Wint. Big audience. Everyone in the world tuning in. Well, I want to start from beginnings. Before poetry became your path, what were you like as a kid creatively?
I mean, I think I've been blessed in the way that poetry has also always been part of the path. Like, those who knew me as a 12-year-old would not be surprised to find out that, like, I'm, making my life writing and speaking these days. I would say in my early adolescence, in my childhood, probably sports took up more space than my creativity did. So, like, I was watching a lot of basketball and hockey and basically everything that I could get my hands or eyes on. And then before the notion of spoken word was ever a thing, like, I knew my gifts were bound in, like, my ability to write and speak. Like, I was always kind of affirmed as someone who's like, oh, like, he's articulate, or he's a good writer, or he communicates well. And so I thought that particular aptitude was going to take the form of being a broadcaster on some level. So, like, I wanted to be a sports commentator. So,
oh my gosh.
I guess in my earliest days, I have memories of, like, watching sports, but then muting the TV and sort of, like, commentating the game myself, kind of like practicing for what I thought was going to be my future profession, I guess, which is a kind of spoken word.
Yeah. Such can still happen later in life. You never know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little, educationally, I'm a little behind, but I would love to be a broadcaster still, and so I'm intrigued even, like, to be in a podcast space, because there's a part of me that either wishes I was, or, like, is aspiring still to be a broadcaster of a certain kind. So yeah. Otherwise, creatively, I was just like a sensitive kid scribbling in his journal a lot, writing poems that were sort of accented by my love of hip hop, writing bad rhymes, freestyling in the shower quite often, so, like, all the pieces were there. I didn't know that they were gonna coalesce in, like, quite this way, but yeah, I was a quietly creative kid the whole time.
So then how did they coalesce? How did you first get pulled into it?
Yeah, so I went to Carleton University in Ottawa from 2006 to 2011. And so in my second year, I was just bored on campus one day, watching, like, Def Poetry Jam on YouTube, when, like, YouTube was still, like, a fairly new thing, and, like, the notion that I could, like, even watch poetry on the internet was like, oh. Anyway, so that habit of mine sort of sparked the curiosity around, like, oh, it's the capital of Canada, there must be poetry somewhere. And at that time, they were doing elections for the student government at Carleton. And I just went to the most popular looking Black person I could find, and I was like, hey, Kweku, do you know where I can find poetry? And he so happened to have a friend named Comey, who's like since become a friend of mine, of course, who was like into the poetry scene. He gave me Comey's email. I sent Comey a poem. Comey was like, "Oh, this is amazing," and like that was sort of my intro into like not only because like I'd been writing poems my whole life, but that was maybe the first time someone who was like performing poetry or like someone connected to a poetry community said like, your talent is credentialed enough for you to like be in this space with us. And so there was a monthly slam that happened on Saturday nights, and I was a regular ever since. And yeah, won a few slams. Like it's a long story. I won't say every detail, but yeah. In Ottawa at that time, the scene for whatever reason was growing in such a way that there were a lot of young Black men popping up, and so like we sort of formed like a critical mass. And so there was a way that I already felt welcome because like half the people who were stepping on stage looked like me and were like of a similar age to me. And so yeah, I did my little poems. People enjoyed them. I said I shall continue, and I've continued.
Oh my gosh, what was that first moment of performing and sharing one of your poems for the first time like?
Being on stage, I wasn't daunted by it, but it felt important. Like in terms of harnessing my subjectivity, like my upbringing was like quite suburban, quiet, sheltered, didn't involve a lot of like risk taking. And so like, I would say the act of performing poetry for the first time and like developing an artistic practice around standing on stage and using my voice and like basically filling rooms with my energy was life-changing. And I would say then that like those first few moments of being on stage, I caught an inkling that like, oh, like this is gonna change my life. Like just because I knew that practice was going to like, yeah, just fortify me as a human being in ways that I never had access to before. And so, yeah.
I'm curious about, the teachers and the elders and the artists who helped shape your voice early on.
So yeah, at Carleton University, I was an English major. And so in my first year, mostly what I encountered was, I guess, what is typical or was typical of that time, which is to say like a lot of dead British and Scottish and Irish poets, which is fine, I respect I respect that. But but I think sometime in my second year in a Canadian poetry course, I was introduced to the work of Dionne Brand. And Dionne Brand has spent most of her life in Toronto, but is originally from Trinidad and Tobago. And the story I always tell is first, like it was presented to me, her work was presented to me in class. And then after class, I went directly to the library and took out like 4 or 5 of her books and just was like reading for pleasure, which was not something that I had time or motivation to do very much of in my undergrad. And it was because there was something about the way she was using rhythm in her poetics that made me hear the sea, And so like my mom is from Barbados, my dad is from Jamaica. I wasn't raised in the Caribbean, but I was raised by people who were raised in the Caribbean. And so like, yeah, the way that I've been framing it is like there was something in my blood memory that she aroused, or something in like the particular song, something in like it could have been like the melody or like the linguistic register that she was using was speaking to me on a cultural, ancestral level. And so that in combination with those like early forays into spoken word gave me a sense of like, oh, there's space for me to be a writer. And I can be that authentically. I can be, a Black person from Ontario, and I can write about my family or write about my subjectivity or like write for my positionality in an authentic way, and it can be respected, it can be literary, it can be celebrated, and outside of the pages of books, there are whole communities that are willing to listen by virtue of like my connection to spoken word. And so, yeah, Dion Brand was like the first person who gave me a sense of like, okay, there are no necessary boundaries for me. If what I say I love is to write and speak, you know, I can do that. So yeah, that was the beginning. And then I'll mention my peer, my brother, Ikenna, who in spoken word terms, he went by the stage name of Open Secret. So I had mentioned that like my upbringing was like quite sheltered and quite quiet, and yeah, you know, not very risk taking. And so I think yeah, what happened was I won my first slam, and like in my early 20s, I was very afraid of becoming arrogant, because I don't know if you had a similar experience with the emceeing. It's like when you find yourself doing something that accords with your aptitudes so strongly and you're getting affirmed for it, it's like, oh, like, you know, I felt very powerful.
Yeah. I called that getting drunk on the mic.
Yeah.
I was like, the mic is making me feel drunk with power.
Exactly. And so like, because that feeling was like very intoxicating and very new, I thought it was going to like crush me. I thought like, oh my God, if I have to wield this power responsibly, I'm going to like crumble under the weight of it. And I remember winning my first slam, which at that time meant like, that was the most affirmation I'd ever gotten, because it's like they told me I was the best. Yeah, I'm the winner. I won, you know. And I had never really won anything for poetry at that moment. And I remember walking from the venue to the bus stop, and he kind of walked with me, and I was telling him like, "Oh my God," and like it feels so quaint now. It's like, oh, he won a little slam, and he's worried he's gonna like self-destruct or whatever, but
or his ego's just gonna blow up.
Yeah, it feels frivolous now to even think about it. But he was like, oh, don't be afraid to be great. Like each one of us has like an innate greatness, and like we have some responsibility to investigate our capacity for greatness, or like tap into like whatever our gift is. And if you're being shown that this is a window into your potential for greatness, just like, you know, dive into that and get comfortable with it. Like it's not gonna hurt you. Like it can only enrich you. And like that was really important for me to hear. And I'm not sitting here today telling you like, oh, I'm great. I've climbed to the top of any particular mountain, but I needed to understand the relationship between ego and purpose in order to continue to be a public-facing sort of artist. Because I think, what I often say is that like my ego needs to be quite large in order to sustain what it is that I do. So like I've been a full-time professional artist almost exclusively for the last 15 years. And so like to be able to do that means the willingness to like self-promote, to be able to say over and over and over, I have prepared an offering and it's like worth your time and attention, you know? When you introduce me, or when a host at a show says my name and reads my bio, I have to be able to say, yeah, that is me, you know? And it's okay. It's okay that I'm going to be the only person speaking in this room for the next half hour, which is like quite a privileged position to be in. And so like my ego is quite large, but not larger than my desire to love, not larger than my notion of God, not larger than my love for my family, or my orientation to like wanting to be good for the sake of my ancestors, you know? So all of these things are purposes that are larger than my ego. And so at this moment, I don't fear that like I'm going to become arrogant, because I feel like the role that poetry and the role that my gifts serve in my life, yeah, those things are larger than the gratification of like, please tell me I'm a good poet. You know, so.
Did you arrive to this right away?
Oh,
or,
absolutely not. No.
You know, was that a journey in and of itself, or sometimes there were those moments where like, I'm doing this not for like a more noble purpose, but my ego is, it's, we're dancing the line.
Yeah, so I think if I can remember, I'll answer that question in two ways. So the first thing that came to mind is, so I've been a professional poet since maybe like 2010, and then a full-time professional since 2011 or so. And so the way that my artistic practices are now enmeshed with capitalist necessities, like the way that like I have to, or I feel like I have to show the world that I'm working, so that they will think of me when they're like, oh, we need to pay a poet to do something. We need to pay someone to conduct or facilitate a workshop. And so it's not that those things are making me arrogant, but it means that like, yeah, it warps the relationship that my ego has to the poetic work, because there's the part of me that needs to be a poet in order to survive on a spiritual level. Like I need to be making sense of the many meanings that are available to me in any given day, like the many conclusions that I can draw from being here in this moment. Like, you know, there's
the human experience.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's part of me that's like inherently a poet, but now I've become so used to being a poet also in like the public facing sense that sometimes those two things get conflated in a way that creates tension in me, where it's like, oh, it's not that I can only write a poem if there's a project attached, but I've become very comfortable of like the distance between like, oh, I'm writing this poem because it satisfies some spiritual desire that I have, and I'm writing this poem because I need to find a way to turn my every gift into a product that is discernible and marketable and valuable enough that I can like afford to buy the breakfast sandwich that I'm going to eat tomorrow. That distance has become uncomfortably close. Those two things have become uncomfortably close to each other. And so there's a lot of ego in that, you know, because I have no other job at the moment. I'm looking for a job. If anybody out there is looking to hire someone, I'm
Me too.
I'm
We're
in the
all
market.
looking for jobs. So expensive here. We all need jobs. More jobs.
It's true. Yeah. So like, there's a part of me that feels like a capitalistic pressure to say like, oh, I need to write every day because, like, you know, the notion of like time is money. If I'm using all this time, I need to devote some of it to like the thing that I do to make money, which is, you know, write and speak poems. But then it's also like, well, I'm a human being and I need to write this poem. I need to write poems every day to like keep my heart soft, or to express my devotion to life, you know, through the gift that I have, which is writing and feeling poems, you know. And so, yeah, I'm always sort of doing that dance. Yeah.
What kinds of experiences tend to crack you open creatively?
Ooh. Any moment of like unabashed joy. Yeah, just like expressiveness that's oriented toward love or positivity. I really enjoy how easily I can be brought to tears. Which is also a way of saying like, it is not uncommon for me to like stumble across like a sports highlight and see somebody hit the game-winning shot or score the game-winning goal. And even if I have no context, even if I don't know who's involved or what game they won, I will weep with them. I will cry just because like that the moment of exuberance, the way that joy is like shared, the way that often it's like grown men who are not framed in such a way as to like often have opportunities to be like exuberantly joyful, to like see how much it means to the crowd. Like I can be broken open that way.
I love that.
There was maybe like 4 nights ago, I encountered like a slug just underneath my front door, and I ushered the slug out of the house as gently as I could. And then last night he was back in the same curled up, just like curled like a
like I was trying to be your friend. You didn't need to usher me out.
Well, I didn't know, like I felt like I had to do it again, but I was like, part of me was like excited to see you. I was like, oh, I respect that you came back. I was like, oh, you made it back. That's cool. We're friends. I'm still gonna put you outside, but I'm gonna be kind to you. I won't say that broke me open, but like to be a poet is to be gathering meaning and making inferences all the time in these ways. And so like also because the sort of the pressure of capitalism as it exerts itself in this city, because this city is like more expensive than most places, I think it breeds a kind of, if not loneliness, a kind of commonplace isolation. And so it can be hard to gather with friends because all your friends are like, oh, I gotta work, or like I don't have time to like just chill in a way that like is not appointment driven. It's like, oh, I got these 2 hours, but so all of that is to say, poetry has become one of the most reliable ways that I can create intimacy and presence, even in the presence of non-humans. And so like in a certain way I can be broken open by the conversations that the crows are having in the middle of the street. If like someone spills food or like trash in the middle of the street, there's a particular robin that I see in my backyard quite often. I'm just like, hey buddy, like all these things, like they don't make me weep, but they are the things from which or with which I'm building a world. And I'll say I have 2 friends who are filmmakers. I'm also a filmmaker, but really I'm a poet at heart. And the nature of the film that they're making, they feel like they can't appropriately broach the sort of emotional heart of the film without poetry. And so I'm facilitating workshops with both of them, so that they can like feel more comfortable writing poetry, and like just watching them learn to trust that they have the heart for it is like, that's broken me open, where it's like, oh, like I can say what I mean, and like poetry can be the conduit for that. I can talk about my family in a way that like, I would say poems have broken me open lately, but also like watching people learn about themselves through the space that poetry offers them has been really humbling. And
that's beautiful. Lately, I've been noticing on your Instagram the little status updates. And you've talked a lot about love. You talked about unrequited love. You've also mentioned in some interviews before that you consider yourself a hopeless romantic. I'm super curious, especially as a poet, in the day and age of Tinder and Hinge and swiping right, and like what it's like to date. Like, what does being a hopeless romantic mean and look like to you? And do you think our generation has a problem with commitment?
Oh, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. It's like a chicken or the egg situation. I don't know. I don't know if I'm a glutton for intimacy because I'm a poet, or if I'm a poet because I'm a glutton for intimacy. But anyway,
Probably both.
probably, yeah. They're talking to each other all the
Yeah.
time. But yeah, I just love, I love intimacies because I learn so much from them, and often like, I feel like, not to get on a soapbox again, but like, I feel like Instagram is like a self-help machine. Like everyone's kind of telling you how to build yourself and how to think in a way that like produces more clarity or more this or more that. You can be more of whatever. But there's a way that I'm only able to really learn about myself through the mirror constituted by another person. By the thing that happens when I'm in another person's presence long enough that like we mutually start to reveal ourselves to each other, and then like in that other person's eyes I get to like see myself in ways that I couldn't have seen myself if I was just like sitting alone in that room. And so like that's why I talk about love so much, is because I'm like ceaselessly curious about the nature of the human condition. But the only way to really study that condition faithfully is in the presence of other human beings. And it is hard to, it is, at least in my life lately, it's been like quite rare to be like present with folks long enough for the veneer to like fall off, such that like, oh, we're just like, we're able to like see each other. And so yeah, I think I crave I crave that. And then for me, unrequited loves, like there's no such, well, I won't say there's no such thing, but like that particular status that you saw on Instagram, it's not so much about whether the love is requited or unrequited. It's more just that like any inkling of love is like so energizing that it furnishes like 17 poems. And so like I don't need necessarily to like fall deeply in love with everybody that I encounter, but like even a meaningful crush can carry me for some weeks, can push me toward a new project or an EP, or like make me see the world in sharper color, So I'm interested in that for myself and for other people.
I'm going to ask you, and this is kind of my final question to this portion, is what feels like it's evolving in you as an artist? What are you currently exploring and questioning?
Again, so like, because I need a job, there's like a little bit of that. So like the relationship of creativity to money, or like whatever ideas I have around like what it means to be a professional artist is one. I would say like on a deeper level, the modes of violence that I'm bearing witness to in this era of human history are not ones that I anticipated that I would see. So like like coalescing genocides, and then like in the social media era, we're able to like bear witness to these violences and everybody's opinions about the nature of these violences pretty much incessantly. And so it creates different kinds of questions or urgencies around, the sort of classic question of like, oh, what is the role of the artist in
these times?
Yeah, nurturing revolutionary consciousness, or creating more love, or more room for healing. And so yeah, I think the questions around not like, is it enough to just write a poem? Because I think I have the answer to that one. Like it's not enough just to write a poem. but then therefore, like, where do I situate myself such that I can do the kind of good that I want to be able to do, given the enormity and sort of unrelenting nature of our species' capacity for cruelty. You know, like where do I situate myself to kind of solve or reckon with these problems in a collective way, and then write the poems on the basis of the things that I learned from those conversations with other people. Those are the things that are like exerting the most force on me right now as a poet and human.
That's big. Well, Brandon, can't let you get away without a fun rapid fire round.
Okay.
You know, this is short answers.
Sure.
Quick first thing that comes to your mind. Let's take a deep breath. A question you wish people asked you more often.
Just what do you need?
Beverage of choice when sitting down to write.
Herbal teas. So peppermint, chamomile. There's a combination of it's like the combination of the heat and like the way steeping tea like slowly changes color. That feels poetic to me.
Ever regret publishing something too honest?
No, not yet. But I know this is rapid fire, so I don't know. I don't know if I'm allowed to expound. But my grandfather passed last week, and I was finding myself uncomfortable with how quickly I moved to turn those feelings into poetry. Yeah. Because like every time my heart breaks, I'm a little bit happy, or like I'm a little bit grateful for it, because I think the only real human pain is confusion. And so whenever I'm not confused about why I'm feeling what I'm feeling, I'm actually like quite grateful. And then it can make me like quite expressive. It's like, I am utterly devastated, but I know why. And that can be like quite a relief. But like, given everything that we were just talking about, in terms of like rushing to turn every feeling into poetry and then poems into products, I was like, oh, actually, I have to just like sit with these feelings. Like it's not about turning my grief into an essay right now, or thinking about how the tenderness I feel in my heart for my grandfather like fits with the theme of the next album that I'm conjuring, you know? And so like, that's not a regret, but it's like, yeah, I felt a little bit icky in that moment of like, oh, I'm rushing. My grandfather deserves a different kind of patience right now.
Just the way that you express and explain yourself, it really, I've been feeling tender today.
Okay. Thanks for saying so, yeah.
And this conversation I knew I could show up for.
Cool.
And I knew that your words would hold me, even though we're not even talking about why I feel tender today. It's just, I'm just a human being existing. And so, yeah, I appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
And I appreciate your presence being here, exchanging with us. I love that this conversation, I mean, I never know fully wherever our conversation goes on this show. I love to make room for what feels juicy and alive in the moment and following that trail. And I love that it led us here.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and so I'm going to end with the not so rapid fire.
Okay. All good.
It was awesome.
Thank
it
you,
was so awesome to sit down with
likewise.
you, to get to know you more, but also to hear about where your heart is at in these times and what you're thinking about, and like how your brain and your heart moves as a poet in this world and in these times. It's refreshing. actually.
Thank you.
I would love to take a workshop. I would love to take.
Yeah.
Oh, we've got another one over here too.
Okay.
You want to take a workshop?
Cool. You are invited. I will invite you on the internet.
So amazing. Y'all, this is Brandon Wint. You could find him on the Instagrams. Now we're doing the plugs, the capitalist plugs. But actually, no, for if you want to be inspired, if you want to hear some poetry, if you want to connect back to your humanness, at Brandon Wint Poet, correct?
Yep.
I'm Kazi. Thank you everyone who's tuned in on the live stream, everyone who's tuned in on the replay. We appreciate you. Also want to give a big shout outs to MOARRR Studio for hosting and partnering with us on this show. Big shout outs to TELUS STORYHIVE. Anyone you want to shout out?
Yeah, my grandfather, my sweet grandmother. My grandmother's voice is like, yeah, the sweetest thing in the world. So shout out to grandma. Yeah, and anyone who, yeah, just anyone who loves me. Shout out to you.
I love that. Y'all, you've been watching StoryHive on Location Vancouver with Beats, Eats,